Good morning, everybody. Good morning and happy Monday. We'll give it another quick minute and then we'll get started, making sure everyone has enough time to quickly log in here. And then we'll be good to go. Big week, a very, very big week. We'll start off with that here in just a second. Excellent. Looks like we're all here. Very good. Okay. All right. Let's get started. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, November 4th. Probably the busiest week of the year here this week. Obviously, we've got a U.S. election, but it's not just that. And that's if that weren't enough, and it might be. We also have. Let's start off with Tuesday. So obviously, election Tuesday tomorrow. Tomorrow we get ISM manufacturing data. That's also important. Then on Thursday we get initial jobless claims and a Fed decision. So an interest rate decision. And on Friday, we get some consumer sentiment data. On top of that, we have, I think, about 15-ish% of the S&P 500 reporting earnings this week. So I think this will qualify as the busiest week for the year. And I, for one, have been preparing for this now for a couple of weeks mentally. So should be in decent position to push through and kind of have a game plan. This, by the way, is our morning show, so thank you all for being here. Brand new, been doing it now for a couple of months. Set the Market, it's called, Monday through Thursday. And our shtick sort of is to go through and look at the top couple of things that we're looking at each day. And that's it, 10 to 15 minutes to get everyone up and running. And so that's the deal. So let's quickly start off with the S&P 500. I think this is an important part here to make clear is the S&P 500 is now up, let's call it about 40% over the past 12 months. 40% over 12 months. That's a lot, historically speaking, over a 12-month period, a one-year period. That's not the year to date, but over the past 12 months. So over any 12-month period, up 40% is very, very significant. And so when I consider that and I look at sort of the forward multiple things we're trading at, and then I see what's coming out of Warren Buffett this past weekend, I just want people to kind of be aware of what the news flow really is. So Berkshire Hathaway's cash pile is now at something like $325 billion. And if you're wondering what that looks like sort of in pictorial format, this is kind of what that looks like. So it's just been going straight up and to the right. And a good part of that increase in cash over the past quarter or so has essentially been Berkshire selling their Apple stock. And, there's a lot of theories of why they might be doing this. Is it because they might not, be able to invest cash at these kind of rates next year if the Fed lowers rates? Or is it because of succession plans whenever Warren steps down? Or is it really because what it probably is, which is the fact that they're not seeing a whole lot of great investing opportunities and they're not even buying back their own stock anymore. So if you look at this, I know it's a bit small to see, but the point is more to kind of talk about it rather than show you the picture. But you can see that they didn't really buy any stock back in the third quarter. And they've sort of stopped stock buyback until they see better terms. And, that just tells me that they're concerned about things getting stretched, not about the end of the world necessarily, but, Buffett is a value investor at a good price, and he just doesn't see a lot of good bargains out there right now. So that's a lot of cash to sit on. And when I take this and I layer the fact that the S&P is now up 40% over the past 12 months, it just gives me, cause for a bit of a pause. That's really kind of, the long and short of it. So as we head into this election now tomorrow, I think, and I wrote this to our inner circle members, it's probably an interesting thought to take some profits on in trading accounts. And I say trading, and when I say taking profits, I mean raise some cash, whatever that means. Obviously not advice, just through the lens of education. And I mean trading accounts as opposed to investing accounts, because if we have a good amount of cash in investing accounts, we are going to be able to get through the next number of days or the next week or two with probably less emotional damage and lower blood pressure, and we should be able to make decisions with a clearer mind. So I'm not saying, let's liquidate our trading accounts, but I've been raising a lot of cash and selling positions to free up margins so that I can, kind of see what things look like Wednesday morning, and then and then again maybe Thursday and Friday and next week and so on and so forth, and see if I can get a better holding and put on positions with a bit more conviction, for lack of a better term, or at least with a more open-mindedness as to what the direction might be here going forward for the time being. Also, I'll say this, and this is something that I came across this morning. You guys are the first ones to hear this. A friend of mine, he is very well connected, and he spoke with one of the largest hedge fund, I think he is the largest hedge fund guys out there, Ken Griffin, and he seems to be constructive on the market after the election. Now, of course, there's a time frame question, and the question is, what is that? I would imagine his time frame is probably not a whole lot more than a couple months, maybe 3 months. But I don't know. I do not know that. I'm certainly not trying to put words in anyone's mouth. But there's a difference in time frames here, right? So if we go back to the point of Buffett raising, $325 billion in cash, or now sitting on $325 billion in cash, that's a much longer term bet. Whereas if Ken Griffin is constructive the markets for the next 3 months, and again, I'm just assuming this. He didn't say this. I do not know, but that's kind of. Let's just go with this for a minute. Then that's a very different time frame, right? So we need to be mindful of that. Okay, and I will see if I can get my friend to maybe talk about this a bit more. Although it's always difficult to quote someone like Ken Griffin and have to be compliant about these things and so on and so forth. So. Anyway, that's number 2. And the third thing I want to go through is something that I know is probably interesting for a lot of people because it kind of goes with the emotions of what things are liking to invest in these days. But if you like charts and you like the idea of sort of artificial intelligence and robotics, here's an ETF that is, I think, interesting. And I'm going to show you the website of this company too, so you can kind of see what the holdings are. And I should always say, as always, I do not have any relationship with this Global X ETF provider, although I'd love to have them on my podcast. I do not know them. No one's getting paid here. I just think this is an interesting ETF, and I think technically it sets up well for those people that like to look at charts. So if you like to look at charts and you base some of your decisions on charts, this is kind of an interesting setup here. Again, to me, the artificial intelligence story is not so much about trading as it is about investing, because I think it's going to experience some pretty serious volatility at some point that most people are simply not positioned for. But for now, this is an interesting setup, and we can get creative and doodle on this chart, and and come up with all sorts of names for inverted head and shoulders patterns and whatever. You can get creative with this, but it's something that's interesting, and if we were to see renewed acceleration here, then I would imagine at some point this is an ETF that can go a lot higher. BOTZ is the ticker symbol. Let me actually type it into the chat here. BOTZ. Where's my chat? BOTZ. Yes, Ken Griffin of Citadel. Craig. Hey, good to see you, Craig. BOTZ. Yeah. Again, I have no affiliation with this ETF company. I just think it's interesting. Now, let me show you the holdings of this thing, and then you'll see why. Now, there's one caveat to this, and it's a pretty important one. So these are some of the holdings of this ETF, BOTZ, and if you look at the holdings, obviously to no surprise, NVIDIA here is the top holding, and that's kind of where I'm at, where I want to go to. But we'll get back to this in a second. But just notice that the second largest holding is something called Intuitive Surgical. So this is a robotics company. And then you've got ABB, which is a Swiss company. And you've got Japanese companies in here. And really, it's a much more of a global story, which is one of the reasons I like this too, because I actually think that U.S. stocks could start to underperform at some point starting soon. So I like the fact that this is a more globally diversified story on robotics. And remember, there's a lot of great engineering companies in places like Europe, or in this case even Switzerland, and other parts around the world, not just in the U.S. So I like the story from that perspective as well. BOTZ is the ticker. Again, not a recommendation, simply something I wanted to point out to you here this morning. Now, let's go back quickly to NVIDIA, because I mentioned this last week. Currently, NVIDIA is trading at about 26.5 or so forward sales, so price to sales, which is typically about where the stock has topped out for over an intermediate term over time. And so if NVIDIA were to not go much higher from here for the next quarter, two, whatever, I don't know, few quarters maybe even, then I don't think this ETF can break out meaningfully higher either. But it could do pretty good still. It could still hold up very well, because again, it's more of a global story. So if I want to allocate some money to global robotics and AI, I like this a lot more than just investing in NVIDIA, and certainly only investing in US AI stocks. Because I mean, this is a very global story. Just this morning got invited to an AI summit in Zurich and then in London. And so this is a very global story, and it allows us to be a bit more globally invested as well in robotics and AI kind of things. So that is it. If you are an Inner Circle member, tomorrow is our regular Tuesday meeting. We are going to do the final pre-election prep, meaning prepping for setting up for trades after the election. Make sure you join us for that. And then, of course, on Thursday, we're going to do live trades. Wednesday, we're going to do live trades for TST Trender members. So please make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can be updated in real time when we have these live meetings or podcast interviews that are popping up on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up, like. That really helps us, because otherwise we have to stop doing the show. But it really helps you by subscribing to making sure that you get all the information here in real time. So thank you all for being here. Monday through Thursday is our show. Thanks so much, and we'll see you guys right here at 9 o'clock Eastern tomorrow morning. Take care.